Ugh. I hurt my elbow. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Jalen the Blasian, or Jay's Vi, and welcome to the anime portion of N2HK. And today I have a lot of energy. I'm very excited to bring you guys the first anime content video on the channel. This anime channel segment of the channel of N2HK is going to be about reviews and stuff going on in the anime community, but essentially it's not going to be your normal review channel. Now, usually reviewers, they talk about critiques and they talk about stuff they don't like and what they do like about a show. They look at it as like, you know, a piece of work to be criticized. But me, personally, I will not be doing that. I'll be watching anime and I will be giving my opinion on the tales, the stories, the morals, the characterizations of the show. So it's less about critiques and more about how the show makes me feel when I watch it. I'm not saying that I turn my brain off. I am aware of plot defects, plot holes, bad characters, all that stuff, but it's going to be more about what the anime does well and how I make it and how it feels for me. Today, the anime that we'll be talking about in discussion will be Kiznaiver from Studio Trigger. For the reason I talk about Kiznaiver today is because, in my opinion, it's a good gateway anime for people that are new to anime and people who want to get into it. And for you anime connoisseurs like myself, you want to have anime in your collection that you can give out to new people to get them involved to watch. Or if you bring friends over and they want to watch some anime, you could just throw this on. It's a good show, everyone can get into it. It has a great premise. So, and just like Kiznaiver is a good gateway anime, for this channel, it's a good gateway anime to talk about. So it's a good gateway anime for this channel, since this is the first episode of the M2HK anime section. You see what I'm saying? First anime video, Kiznaiver's good gateway anime. Trigger is one of the first Trigger anime. You get the picture. Other than that, no more further ado, let's get into it.
Kiznaiver was released in 2016 by Studio Trigger, the begotten son of Studio Gainax, the creator of one of my top 10 anime, Gurren Lagann. In a sense, Studio Trigger itself is now exiting the gateway portion of its life cycle, for it's fairly new itself. Kiznaiver is a story about 7 students that are subject to an experiment that causes them to feel the physical and later the emotional pain of each of the students involved. So if one of them stubs a toe or jumps off a balcony, they will all feel it. It sounds like a rough time, but at least the pain is split 7 ways, alleviating some of the effects. Other than that, the story progression is fairly straightforward. They go through trials together, and because of the special bond they now share, that is, feeling each other's pain, their relationships with one another are understandably accelerated and unstable. Think about it like this. You're living your everyday life. You have your friends, your schedule, and of course all the demons inside you clicking like clockwork. Then suddenly, you're thrown into a situation where you're grouped with a bunch of strangers that you see every day, but have never interacted with. Aside from Chidori and Agata, no one really has spoke with one another before the experiment. Which brings me to my first reason why this is a good gateway anime. It's relatable because of its characters and premise. None of the characters really have anything about them that is special in regards to their personality. It's nothing we haven't seen before, and honestly, they are pretty static and consistent in nature. But for this story, that is okay. Allow me to explain. Every single one of us has a main component of our persona that remains consistent throughout our lives. We may be quirky, stoic, insecure, or a bit blockheaded in everyday situations. It is not until we meet someone and open up that more of our character traits begin to reveal themselves in front of a new person as we get comfortable. Yes, the characters in Kiznaiver have bland base personalities, but it's the way that the bond that they share forces them to open up that makes the story interesting. The very first trial that our heroes had to do was to reveal something about themselves that you didn't want anyone to know. Tenga had an irrational fear of dogs. Yuta was ashamed of his body when he was younger. Chidori was in a distant love, and what I mean by that is that she was in love in the past tense, but the person who she loved, that being Agata, changed, conflicting her emotions. And real quick about that, Chidori loved who Agata was before, and you know when you love someone and no real conflict happened, you'll always love them, especially if the love never came into fruition or was reciprocated. It's like a mysterious love that your heart never experienced. That is why throughout the series, she is conflicted. This is why I do not see her as a copy and paste character who doesn't know whether she's in love or not. This is also why I wasn't conflicted when Agata chose Noriko. He simply wasn't the person Chidori fell in love with. Not to mention, he never had romantic feelings towards Chidori in the first place. This in itself is a lesson. The first thing I thought when I was watching this series was, what if this happened to me? How would I react? An anime fan or not, you can imagine this scenario and be very uncomfortable. That is, feeling the pain and the emotional pain of others around you. In regards to the characters, they are very real in tendencies. The dialogue between the cast is very heartwarming, entertaining, and relatable. It's the little realistic touches in dialogue that I appreciate when watching a show.
ザザーンザザザ
それ何？
ーン物事を考えるのに環境音楽かけるといいって聞いたことあるからザザーンパシャパシャパシャ
ありがとう。
ザザーンザザザーン
This is very subtle and a nice touch. With such good dialogue and character interactions, this helps in relationship building in the cast, which again is accelerated by the bond they share. As I mentioned, the students did not know each other before the experiment. Now, suddenly, they're being forced to interact with each other and build relationships. Meeting people is hard enough. Talking to people you don't care about is even harder, let's be real. Kiznaiver shows us how forcing people to interact will create a lot of friction in the beginning. There is friction in the beginning of many, if not all, relationships, and this is because of uncertainty. We don't know this person or what they've been going through, but when you come to know someone's past and what they want to do, you greatly make things less awkward between you and them. Kiznaiver aggressively does this in the aforementioned Tell Me Your Secrets mission. After they come to understand at least a small bit of their fellow Kiznaivers in the situation they are in, they quickly begin to mesh and get along. If you notice when you watch the series, Maki's secret isn't revealed until later, which plays into a huge reason on why she's the last one to open up to the group. But what actually keeps the group running properly? Yes, they are connected to each other, but they are also getting along and no longer bickering amongst themselves. And this isn't because they are connected by the Kiznaiver, but because they empathize and understand each other, even more so than they are comfortable with. When you meet someone and become friends, the process is very natural in its progression. You may be friends, you may fall in love, you will fight, but in Kiznaiver, it takes it to a whole nother level. They are combining the natural progression of relationships with feeling each other's pain. This makes it accelerated and overclocked. When the students begin to feel each other's emotional pain as well, that is when everything becomes unstable and volatile. As you know, emotions and its fluctuations are rampant throughout high school. High schoolers develop crushes all the time. Hormones are crazy, you're stressed because no one understands you, and imagine having the emotions of others on top of your own. Not only that, but having others hear what your heart is saying, how you really feel. That is truly terrifying, and one of the main reasons why this show is good for newcomers. It totally obliterates the stigma that anime is only for the awkward and weird and quirky. This show has its quirkiness for sure. I mean, it is Studio Trigger after all. But the immersiveness that you feel is gripping. Episode 9 of Kiznaiver is the best episode of the series in my opinion. It is the collapse of the group from being connected too closely. I believe as humans, we don't take the effort to understand others. Sometimes, we may even ridicule or overlook someone just from appearances or from a one-time occurrence that happened. But you can see from the end of episode 9, all of the students are in the same field of mud, grimacing in pain from the overload of emotions from the others. They all felt each other's hearts breaking within them. Like Hisamu said, that kind of emotional torment hurts more than anything physical. The overload that took place in this episode broke up the group. You would think the group broke up because they were tired of each other, but I believe that they were simply tired of the emotional distress caused from feeling each other's pain. Though they were separate now at this point, I believe that the group knew each other better than any other group could in the time spent together. You don't get much closer than feeling someone else's heart break inside of your own. When the group came back together to help Agata with Nariko, it was a swift regroup because of the empathy and understanding they had with each other in the situation. There are two people who I like to highlight for this last topic, Hanaka Maki and Sonozaki Noriko. As I mentioned earlier, Maki was the last one to talk about a problem during the Tell Me Your Secrets test, and rightfully so. Maki felt responsible for the death of her friend Ruru. Ruru had a disease that she retained since birth, putting her life on a short time span. Maki felt responsible for the death of Ruru, for she had left her when their friendship became more than just friends. Maki knew that Ruru was going to die, and she left her because she didn't want to be hurt from the pain of losing Ruru when she died. Obviously, Ruru's death was not Maki's fault, but she still holds blame for it. The group pushes and pushes Maki to forgive herself and to move on and make new friends. It is hard, of course, because Maki closes herself off after the death of Ruru. I felt that as a viewer, Maki was stuck in time. She consistently referenced the manga that her and her friend made when she was alive, and she never read the last chapter until Yuta urged her to read it. From this, you can tell that Maki held herself in a self-destroying state of mind, almost like a Tsukiyomi. Shout out to my boy Itachi. Rest in peace. It is not until Nico reassures Maki that it's okay for her to move on, almost like she was giving her permission. You can find this type of scenario in Blue Spring Ride, where Cole feels like he's responsible for the death of his mother and doesn't believe he deserves to be happy again. That is until Futaba essentially gives him permission to be happy and to have fun again. That is one of my favorite scenes in anime. My next example is Noriko, which she is by far the most tragic character in the series, and I'm not going to explain the entire backstory for her, for it's kinda messy, but it boils down to Nori holding on to the pain of her old friends, which included Agata and the previous Kiznaiver experiments. She believes that it's because of the experiments that her and her old friends were close, but it was more than that, and Agata proves this. He tells her that he liked her before the experiments and not just because of the experiments, completely dousing Noriko's thought process and her theatrics. This shows us that there are more to bonds between people than just what you have on the surface level. If you are really friends with someone in your athletics club, it's probably less about you two being on the same club and more about you and that person having chemistry and understanding one another. Kiznaiver perfectly depicts this in the bridge scene. Nori lets go of the pain that she believed held her and her friends close and learns that Agata still loves her, even if she doesn't hold on to his pain that she believed was the sole purpose of their bond. Kiznaiver is not a perfect piece by any means. It has its flaws, but it relates to everyone in a nice way, allowing for anyone to enjoy it. The characters are fun and relatable, the premise is scary, and it depicts relationships that are a part of everyday life. But most importantly for me, it shows that it's okay to move on. I definitely would recommend this to any newcomer to anime. There are only 12 episodes, and there is a clear ending, allowing for discussion and meaningful takeaways.
Whew. I hope that you guys like that. If you did like it, please like it, subscribe it, all that stuff. I'm not gonna be doing anime videos that often on the channel. It's gonna be more about the main show. But when stuff comes into the anime world and stuff, I will mention it and talk about it and everything. But this is just a small segment that's gonna be on the channel. If you guys do like it, let me know. I would love to make more. I like making them. It gives me an opportunity to work on editing and work on voiceovers and commentaries and all that stuff. So I enjoyed making it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and be on the lookout for the N2HK show. That should be coming out next week. We should be having a mini show come out. We may do the same format as last time. If you guys haven't checked it out, please check it out. You'll be able to see it right here. And subscribe, which will be right here. Boom, boom. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.